Hello YouTube, this is Art Wakened Mind. So in this video I'm going to continue the series on the language of drawing. In the past video, if you haven't checked it out, we talked about line and how powerful line is, and how basically that's your foundation or starting point is to begin with line. It's the simplest way to start drawing something. It gives you the parameters, it gives you everything. Plus, I think of this. I didn't talk about this in the other video, but as I was thinking, I was like, the line is kind of like the 2x4. Like if you were gonna build a house, like that's how I kind of think of drawing, like, and you're kind of constructing, right? So it's like your lines are kind of like your 2x4s, like if you're gonna build a house, right? So now what in this video, what I'm gonna be talking about is shape. And I guess you could think of those as like the walls of the house. So let's get to it then. So shape, that's the next evolution in this language here. And we're gonna start out with just like we did with the lines, pretty much. Lines create the shape, right? So the first shape I want to talk about is the square, which is made by two horizontals and then two verticals. And then you have a square, right? Pretty simple. And I'll just fill that in to make it more clear, more solid. Again, the lighting really sucks, but I'm working on it. So this is a square, not to be confused with a cube. So we're talking about shape, which shape is not three-dimensional, it's two-dimensional. So it's 2D, abbreviate it, right? So the evolution of this square will be a cube, but for right now, we're just talking about flat shape, 2D shape, right? So that's the starting point. So I just want to keep it simple. So you could think of this as like A in the alphabet, right? So that's letter A, if you were thinking about this as like an alphabet. And I want to kind of keep confirming that idea of this is like a language, right? Because the more you think of it like a language, the easier I feel like, the more you'll like steer away from, it's all about just having talent, when really it's about just understanding it as a language, So the next letter in this language, we could say, would be B, right? Which would translate to, let's say, the triangle. Why not? So the triangle is made up of one horizontal, two diagonals, one ascending diagonal, one descending diagonal, and then we just fill it in, right? Just to make that solid, clear. So you got the square, and words are, I want to stay away from words, but for right now, it's all about just it's a visual language, right? So it's more about just memory. I mean, and everybody knows what a square and a triangle is, so it's really, right? So I don't know what I'm rambling on about. And then we got C, which would be the circle. Pretty easy. And a lot of people are like, I can't even draw a circle. It's like, well, then just draw the letter O, and you'll probably draw a circle pretty good. I think people, when they try to draw a circle right, they try to draw the circle. But when somebody just writes, like, say, like the word pop or something, like, they'll just write pop, and then they'll be like, oh, boom. I drew, they drew a circle, but they don't even realize it, right? But then if they actually try to just focus in on just drawing this circular shape, right, they can't do it because they're, it's mind over matter, right? So I feel everybody can draw these shapes. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to learn this, right? And I know a lot of you guys are past this point probably, but for younger viewers, I don't know, even for myself, I like to it's good to just keep this, especially if you're going to teach this one day, to get this in your head. So like I said, these shapes are formed by, verticals, diagonals. That's why the line is our starting point. And if we look at these shapes, like the square, it's very structural, it's very equal because it's made up of the horizontal, which is very common, and then it's very structural too because it's made up of the horizontal. Now the triangle is quite interesting, right? Because you got these two diagonals that are very they're aggressive, and they kind of look like this one, it looks like it would fall over, but before it falls over, that other diagonal catches it, and then the horizontal calms it down, right? So it gives it that base. But if I just had if it was just this and this, then we'd have this would be feeling like it would be falling over. So you bring this other line and it balances it out, you see. But maybe you actually might want that. If you might want something that maybe you don't even put see that just with that diagonal, we get a sense that something's falling. There's tension there, right? And then you got the circle, which is that's where it can be very enjoyable finding these curves, and nature has got tons of them, but I highly recommend staying with that square that square is going to translate to a cube, which is going to translate to finding, you can put anything, you can box up anything, you can put a square around anything and it will it works as like a container, a space container in which you can construct all these three-dimensional forms, which forms will be the next video. But I just want to keep this about shape, but I just want to talk about, the curve and how, the curve is very beautiful. And you can see how it's very, organic, right? You can just keep going on and on with it. And I want to continue with this shape, idea. So you think when you're little and you learn okay, draw a house, square, and this, and then maybe there's a circle up here or something, and then maybe I can put a square or a rectangle here, and then I can put windows here. That's very elementary. Obviously everybody can draw that, and I'm not trying to teach that, but I'm saying that's how powerful the visual language is. I drew that within seconds, and everybody knows that's a house because we've learned that. But is that really what a house looks like in reality? No, but it's a symbol, a conceptual symbol. But what we're gonna learn long, down the road is, beyond the symbol. But to start, that's pretty good idea of what a house is, right? Um, and then you also got like, if you wanted to take this a little bit further or deeper than, like a lot of people would draw, say, a tree like this when they're younger. It's kind of like this lollipop shape, right? Um, but let's take that further. Like, let's take that into a more organic approach. Let's erase this. So this is like more of a symbol, right? Um, which is very simple. You got this, and maybe they would put, a kid would probably scribble some like this, and maybe they would make this like that. I don't know, something like that, right? And then maybe some like the grass or whatever sticking up. You got a tree, right? So now that's like a kid's drawing, right? This is very like, like childlike. This is what a child would draw. Now, let's like say that child grows up, they learn about this language of drawing that I'm speaking of, right? Well, they'd learn to not just conceptualize like, oh, a tree is this rectangle and circle, and that's kind of how they're taught. They're taught these basic shapes in school, but they're just taught the shapes. But then if you teach that child to actually look at the tree, observe the tree for what it is in nature, there's more to that tree than this just straight up. Maybe you start out with that, right? You could start out with that for sure. With this, I think the rectangle is a good start for a tree, right? But like, okay, maybe the circle part, like, maybe we can change that. Maybe we could do something where it's maybe triangular, right? Like you think of the branches stemming out, and then maybe we can set a triangle down here, because this one doesn't have roots or anything, but maybe we add some kind of a rooting system here. So then we start building other diagonals in here, and then we start thinking about maybe sending other triangles within this triangle, right? Like this. And then we start thinking about the branches that are other diagonals. Now this is kind of getting confusing, but I'm just trying to get a point across. This isn't going to be like a beautiful tree or anything. But say you're just sending all these diagonals within this triangle, and so you kind of see that there's this thing that's happening. It's this language is growing from this kind of kindergarten level to this more like adult level, and then maybe we start thinking about some circles here. And that's like the leaves and stuff. Like first we kind of drew the skeleton of the tree, but then we start adding the leaves and stuff, and then we got. But this is more of like an adult version of a tree, right? We've learned to experience things a little bit more deeper. We're looking, we're observing more. But this is more conceptual, which is good for memorizing, and this is like taking nature for what it is. So it's more observing nature, right? Observation, which we're going to get into. Right now we're in the conceptual stage. We're kind of in this stage, but we will reach this stage. Um, so that's, I think that's good for this video. And if you have any questions about this, I can go further into shape or line if you want to talk more about line. But if you don't, I'm gonna go on to the next video and I'm gonna talk about form. So that's basically the transition to square to cube, triangle to cone, and circle to sphere. And I'm gonna end the video here. Like and subscribe, comment in the comment sections, and check out my Instagram too. It's also Art Weekend mine. Thank you for joining.